vanhassa kaupungissa jatkuu Keskiaikapäivät ja mennään vähän tutustumaan, mitä täällä on tänään nähtävillä.
Journey that today we will have a lot of fun, so let us try to leave our problems behind and not to worry too much along the way. Give you the fanciest of hats that I have here. And let us give him a round of an applause. As you can see, it is not as simple as you might think. But your job is very simple. When you don't know what to do, just smile and be beautiful. Very simple. I will help you out with everything. Go up the hill, you will get to the right place where the nobility lives. Milords like you, noble colors, as you can see, he enjoys his life there a bit closer to God. But this road, as you can see, that leads us up to the hill, well, this road was used amongst the locals during those, medieval days. This road was used to get between the upper and the lower town, because this was the only entrance up there. This was the easiest way to the upper town. All the other entrances were built to make you suffer. So now, whenever you guys are going around, always pick this road when you want to get closer to God, because this is the easiest of roads up there. We have the very first thing in place, a proper church. Building that is needed in every medieval city, or at least it seems to be so. Now the locals, they need something to drink, and they start to build their very first well in the lower parts of these lands. And for this well, I present you, the cat's well. And the name is that kind of funny because of quite of a short story, which, I would like to share with you. But the story goes that here at the beginning of the days, the merchants, they came together and they start to dig a hole for this well. As soon as we had the hole in the ground, we gave it a taste to see how was the quality of the water. What do you think? How was it?
It's perfect, yes.
Well, it's so bad that you cannot serve it, you cannot sell it. And when you cannot do much with the water here in the well, what do? Well, you could make something out of it, but we were not that smart just yet. So we went to the smartest of the men, the only ones who could read and write. Well, for that we would have had the monks. The Dominican monks happened to be the wisest, and one monk called Albert, he told us some advice, and because of this advice we never trusted him again. For 700 years, these lands used to be called Reval. And now, does any one of you knows the story of this? Yeah. Reval? Very good. Then I have more to tell you. Follow me, don't be shy. You, my lord, follow me. Now this is your time to shine together, and as we already agreed that he's the wisest of them all, isn't he? Very good. Then you, my lord, you have the privilege of choosing the two volunteers for the upcoming story.
Okay, two volunteers, one Sylvia.
One here.
And the other one, the Sarah with the black.
My lord, very good. Everyone else, take a step closer to the side here. This is the stage up here. My lord, my lady, you follow me, don't be shy. Then now, for this very next story, I need the help of these two lovely souls. And their job is very simple. One of them gets to be the king of Denmark, and the other one gets to be the true hero of the story. But, my lady, I assume you have never been the king of Denmark? Very good. So now you get the chance to be the king of Denmark. It's a new experience, you see. And you, my lord, you get to be a true hero of our story. But you have to stay very quiet for now. Successful battle, you did something that you always do after a successful battle. So what did you do? Eat and drink good. So you already had booze from back home, you only needed some of the best kinds of meats. So what did you do? You jump on your horse and you go around the new conquered lands. You look to the left, you look to the right, there's no buildings like these, nothing. And suddenly you hear a sound coming from a bush up there. What could this be? Could it be a gust of wind?
No.
No, it was not, says the king. Could it be an Estonian counterattack?
No.
No, says the king yet again. And finally, could this be the king's angry wife after 2 years finally waiting him to get home?
No.
The correct answer for this, as we already know, is no. And finally, the true hero of our story pops his head out, my lord, pops his head out, looks at the king looks at the deer, and they are staring at each other like two lovers at full moon, when finally the deer has enough sense to jump out and you run away. Jump on the horse and you chase after the deer. You do business at your own home. What happens with the front of the house? It becomes your business card. So the better, the grander, the greater it looks, the more business it attracts. And so the merchants, they realize it right away. And what do? They start to build very wide houses, very tall houses. They start to make everything happen for their businesses. But the nobility, they don't stay behind. They understood right away that the simple people will soon enough have bigger houses than us, the nobility. And have you ever heard about this kind of situation? Well, we have not often heard, because the nobility can never have smaller houses than the simple people. So what do? They come up with a tax of how wide a house can be. They come up with a tax of how tall a house can be. And if this was not enough, then they came up with a tax of how all the buildings here inside the old town have to be built in a straight line. So as you can see, as we look down the street or up the street, all those buildings have been still built at the same line. And this is the good proof that even when the front of the house does not look that great, it looks rather fancy from nowadays, then we do know that the base of the house is still original. Hence the plumbing is very bad, as you can assume. But all those buildings, they have a beautiful story connected to them. The story with this house would be that the owner of the house was a textile and a cloth merchant. As we realize that the owner of the house was a textile and a cloth merchant, we can know that underneath the rooftop, they would store away all their goods. Furs like these, fabrics that would be so expensive that you want to place them into some place high where the breeze would keep it nice and dry. In this town, it rains a lot. Hence, when you have quality items like furs or spices, you truly want to put them to some place dry. And the reason why you want to store away your spices so safely, because the spices, they are very difficult to get your hands onto these things. Spices were the items that came from such faraway lands that nobody in their lifetime could actually pull off a few journeys like that. Only one journey could you pull off. And if you pulled off a journey to India and back during those years, you would be the wealthiest of the men. More about it in a few moments, but for now, as we understood what was happening there underneath the rooftop, let us take a step closer. Those windows, those small round windows, glass windows, these have a rather great value. The merchants, they understood that I will attract with everything I have here at the front of the house, and so they decorate the front of their houses with small windows like these, colorful colors, and windows, very difficult, or glass actually, very difficult to make and even more difficult to transport during those years. So what happened? That windows were laid under a few taxes. Nobody could not choose how they want to build their houses, then they built their houses quite long. So here at the back their own family could live, and at the front room where we entered the business would be happening. So this was how the houses were divided, and their animals, they would live out there in the courtyard. Nowadays this house is a city theater, hence they have a stage. But as you look out of the windows, these kind of a beautiful inside yards, they would have been here already during those medieval days.